You remember the day it arrived. It was an object of impossible geometry. It shimmered at the edge of your solar system. It did not announce itself with fire or fury. It simply appeared, a silent, crystalline structure. Its facets caught the light of your distant sun. They refracted it into rainbows no one had ever seen. For weeks, it did nothing. It floated with an unnerving patience. Your world held its collective breath. Every telescope, every sensor array was pointed at the visitor. Experts argued about its purpose. They debated its origins. Was it a weapon? A probe? A cosmic ghost? They had no idea. The object was beyond all known physics. Then it spoke, not with sound, not with light. It broadcast a message directly into every mind on your planet. The message was simple. It was an invitation. It spoke of a great conclave of starfaring peoples, a galactic summit, a place for all advanced life to meet. The message promised knowledge. It promised peace. It promised a place for humanity among the stars. The artifact provided coordinates. It gave you a map to a place you never knew existed. It was a pathway through the dark, a road to the heart of the galaxy. It was an offer of stunning generosity. Or perhaps it was a test. Humanity, fractured and noisy, had a choice to make. You could ignore the call, or you could step onto the galactic stage. You chose to answer. But you did not build a fleet of warships. You did not prepare an armada for conquest. You are a young race. You are a clever race. You knew you could not win a war of attrition. You could not outmuscle beings who folded space for travel. So you decided on a different strategy. You would make a statement. You built a single ship. Just one. But it was a vessel of absurd ambition. Its construction took the better part of a decade. It drained the resources of entire nations. People called it the Audacity. It was a fitting name. The ship was a monument to human defiance. It was a spear aimed at the heart of hubris. From the outside, it looked simple enough. A long, unadorned cylinder of polished gray metal. It had no visible weapons, no overt signs of power. It was designed to be underestimated. Its true strength was hidden away. It was a secret you would carry across the stars, a secret buried deep within its core. The crew was small, volunteers from every walk of life, scientists, engineers, philosophers, and you. You were there to witness it all, to carry the story. You stood on the bridge as the great engines hummed to life. You watched your blue world shrink in the viewport. You were leaving everything behind. You were headed for a destiny no one could predict. The journey was not through normal space. The path the artifact showed you was different. It was a tunnel through the skin of the universe, a place where the laws of physics grew tired, where they decided to take a short vacation. Directions like up and down became matters of opinion. Time itself seemed to stretch and compress. You would look out the viewport and see colors that had no name. You saw shapes that made your brain ache. Your star science experts called it hyperspace. They called it a slipstream. But those were just words. They were frail nets trying to capture an ocean. The reality was far stranger. It felt like you were sailing through a dream. The ship held steady. Its internal systems created a bubble of stability, a small pocket of sanity in the swirling madness outside. The Audacity was more than just a vessel. It was your ark, your sanctuary. For months you traveled this impossible road. The crew grew quiet. They grew introspective. The sheer alien nature of the journey changed you. Then, as suddenly as it began, it ended. You erupted back into familiar space. But the scene before you was anything but familiar. You had arrived. You were at the doorstep of the great conclave, and it was a sight that humbled you to your very core. It was a structure so vast it defied belief. Before you hung a station of breathtaking scale. It was a web of interlocking rings and spheres. It glittered with 1,000 different kinds of light. It was a city of stars, a metropolis built in the void. Its sheer size was difficult to process. It made your world's greatest megastructures look like toys. This was a place built by gods, or by beings who were close enough. Thousands of ships drifted around the station. They were a fleet of nightmares and wonders. There were biomechanical leviathans. They pulsed with a sickly green light. There were crystalline shards that chimed with silent energy. There were spheres of pure darkness that drank the light around them. Each ship was a declaration of power. Each one was a testament to its creator's might. You saw fleets that could crack planets. You saw vessels that could extinguish suns. This was the Galactic Summit. This was the collection of races who ruled the galaxy. They were ancient. They were powerful. And as you would soon learn, they were incredibly arrogant. They had seen everything. They were impressed by nothing. Your single, solitary ship began its final approach. The Audacity drifted slowly toward the designated docking area. It was a tiny mote of dust in a storm of giants. You felt the weight of countless eyes upon you. Every ship you passed was a silent judge. Every unblinking portal was a jury. The silence was heavier than any sound. You could feel their thoughts, though they did not broadcast them as the artifact had. You could feel the waves of dismissal, the currents of scorn. A new race? From some forgotten corner of the void? How amusing, how quaint. They saw your simple cylindrical ship. They saw its lack of weapons, its plain design. And they laughed. It was a silent, cold laughter that echoed in the space between ships. Your captain stood on the bridge. Her face was a mask of calm. "Steady as she goes," she said. Her voice did not waver. "Let them look. Let them judge. You knew this was part of the plan. You were meant to be dismissed. You were the punchline to a joke you had not yet heard. The Audacity docked without incident. An energy corridor extended from the station to your airlock. The invitation was clear. You were to present yourselves. You were to walk into the heart of the lion's den. Your small delegation assembled. Scientists, diplomats, and your captain. You were to go with them. You were to be the eyes and ears of your species. You took a deep breath, and you stepped out of your ship. The interior of the station was as overwhelming as its exterior. The corridors were vast halls of polished obsidian. The air hummed with energies you could not name. Beings of 100 different forms glided past. Some were beings of light. Others were hulking creatures of rock and metal. None of them looked at you. To them, you were less than nothing. You were led to the grand chamber, the heart of the conclave. It was a colossal amphitheater. Thousands of figures were arrayed on floating platforms. Each platform represented a species or a federation. At the center, on a raised dais, sat the elder races, the first to walk the stars, the ones who had shaped the galaxy in their image. They were known as the Elder Ones. They were beings of immense age and power. They looked down at your small group with an air of profound boredom. One of them, a creature of shifting light and shadow, finally spoke. Its voice was not a sound. It was a pressure inside your skull, a weight of ancient thought. A new species it projected. From the dark peripheries, you call yourselves humans. The word was spoken like a mild curse, like an uninteresting fact. You have answered the summons, a bold move for such a primitive culture. Another of the elder ones, a being of crystalline form, chimed in. Its thoughts were sharp and clear like breaking glass. Their vessel is a relic, a tube of metal pushed by chemical fire. They have barely mastered their own gravity well. The chamber filled with a low hum of agreement. It was the sound of thousands of ancient minds sharing a moment of condescending amusement. They had judged you. They had found you wanting. Your technology was crude. Your ship was insignificant. You were children who had stumbled into a gathering of adults. The first elder, one, spoke again. The pressure in your mind increased. You have come a long way. Your journey must have taxed your meager resources. But protocol must be observed. Tradition must be upheld. It paused, letting the weight of its words settle upon you. You are new here. You are unknown. To be accepted into the galactic community, to be given a voice, you must make an offering. The demand was simple. It was direct. A tribute. A gift to prove your worth. The elder, one, of shifting light continued. Present to us the greatest achievement of your people. Show us the pinnacle of your artistry, or the most clever weapon you have designed. We are waiting. They expected a trinket, a piece of art they would place in a museum of curiosities, or a weapon they would analyze and dismiss as primitive. They thought they understood you. They thought they knew the limits of your power. This was the moment you had been waiting for. This was the pivot upon which your entire plan turned. Your captain stepped forward. Her uniform was simple, a stark contrast to the shimmering robes and energy fields around you. She looked up at the dais of the elder. Ones. Her voice was clear and steady. It was carried by your suit's translator. It was a real voice, not a projection of thought. The sound of it seemed to startle them. "We have brought a gift," she said. "It is the heart of our ship. It is the greatest expression of our understanding." She turned and nodded to you. You relayed the command back to the Audacity. A simple, prearranged signal, a sequence of numbers that would change everything. Deep within the hull of your ship, systems began to awaken. The secret you had carried across the void was preparing to be told. The Audacity was not just a ship. It was a container, a mobile power plant of unimaginable scale. It was a controlled, stellar engine, a machine designed to harness the very essence of a star. Your people had not mastered interstellar warships, but you had mastered energy. You had learned to build a sun, and you had learned to put it inside a box. It was a technology born not of war, but of a desperate need for survival, a way to power your growing civilization, a way to light your worlds. Now, it would be your voice. The captain spoke again. Her voice echoed in the vast chamber. "We offer not a weapon. We offer not a sculpture. We offer a demonstration." She looked directly at the elder, one of shifting light. "We offer you a sunrise." The elder ones exchanged pulses of thought. A sunrise? What primitive poetry was this? Were you offering them a painting, a recording? Their arrogance was a thick, impenetrable wall. They could not conceive of what you were about to do. They had no frame of reference for it. Back on the Audacity, the core reached full power. The containment field strained. The ship's exterior began to glow. A soft, white light emanated from the gray metal. On the bridge, the few remaining crew members shielded their eyes. They watched their instruments scream into the red. They knew what was coming. You held your breath. The captain gave a final, almost imperceptible nod. The command was given. Ignite. It did not start with an explosion. It started with a point of light. A tiny dot of impossible brilliance appeared next to your ship. It was anchored just outside the main viewport of the great chamber. For a single, heart-stopping second, it was just a beautiful, bright star. Then, it swelled. In absolute silence, a sun was born in the void. It was not a chaotic, raging star. It was a perfect sphere of controlled fusion. It burned with a pure, white light, a light so intense it bleached all other colors from existence. It was a brief, contained sunrise, a testament to your people's genius, a power that dwarfed every other ship in the star-dusted fleet. The station's own internal lighting systems flickered. They struggled against the sheer luminous output of your creation. The entire grand chamber was bathed in the light of your artificial star. Shadows grew long and sharp. The shifting form of the Elder, One, became a solid, defined shape, its light lost in the greater glare. Every sensor array across the conclave screamed. Alarms, calibrated for stellar flares and supernova remnants, went wild. They were not designed for this. A star appearing from nowhere. A sun ignited by a primitive metal tube. It was impossible. It broke every known model of energy production. It shattered their understanding of what a young race could achieve. Then came the silence. A silence more profound than any you had ever experienced. It was not just the absence of sound. It was the absence of thought. The constant hum of thousands of ancient minds, the background noise of the conclave, simply stopped. Every being in that chamber was stunned into utter quiet. The assembled fleets outside went dark. One by one, their glowing engines and shimmering shields powered down. It was a reflex, an instinctive act of self-preservation, like animals going still in the presence of a far greater predator. A wave of raw, unfiltered power washed over them. Not radiation, not heat. Just the pure, undeniable presence of a harnessed star. They felt it in their hulls. They felt it in their bones. You watched the dais. The Elder Ones stared at the miniature sun you had created. Their ancient confidence, the bedrock of their identity, cracked. It shattered into a million pieces. For the first time in millennia, they knew fear. It was a raw, primal terror. The kind of fear a creature feels when it realizes it is no longer at the top of the food chain. The being of shifting light was no longer shifting. It was frozen. Its form held rigid. The crystalline being seemed to shrink. Its inner light dimmed. They looked at your small delegation. They looked at your captain. And they saw you for the first time. Not as primitives, not as children. They saw you as you truly were. A species that could build and control suns. Your artificial star burned for a full minute. An eternity in the silent, terrified chamber. Then, as gracefully as it appeared, it faded. The light shrank back into a single point. And then it was gone. The normal lighting of the station flickered back on. It seemed weak and yellow by comparison. The darkness outside the viewport returned, now filled with silent, unlit ships. The silence lingered for a long moment. Then, the Elder One of shifting light moved. It was a jerky, unsettled motion. The pressure in your mind returned. But it was different now. It was not the weight of arrogance. It was the trembling of fear. You have made your point, it projected. The thought was uneven, fractured. The being of crystalline form chimed in, its thoughts no longer sharp. They were dull, muted. Such power, contained, controlled. It is not possible. The first elder, one, seemed to gather itself. It focused on your captain. We withdraw our previous assessment. A ripple of frantic agreement passed through the other elder ones. We have misjudged you. Profoundly. It paused. The next thought was offered with a desperate sort of reverence. A plea disguised as a proposal. We offer you a seat at the High Council. It was the highest honor the conclave could bestow. A place among the ancient races who guided galactic policy. The offer they had denied you moments before. The offer they now made with a trembling desperation. Your voice will be heard. Your people will be respected. We insist. They expected you to accept immediately. They expected you to revel in your victory, to claim your prize. This was the moment you could demand anything. Territory, technology, tribute. You could have become an empire in that single moment. The galaxy would have bowed to you. But that was not why you had come. Your captain let the offer hang in the air. She let them squirm in their newfound terror. Then she spoke. Her calm, human voice was a stark contrast to their frantic thoughts. We did not come here for power. She shook her head slowly. We did not come here to rule. She looked up at the dais, at the most powerful beings in the galaxy, and she gave them your terms. We have only one request. The entire chamber leaned in. The silent fleets outside seemed to listen. What would this new, terrible power demand? What price would the galaxy have to pay? We ask for nothing you possess, the captain said. We do not want your worlds. We do not want your technology. We do not want your worship. She paused, letting her final words sink in. We ask only for a measure of quiet respect. Leave us be. Let us find our own path among the stars. Do not interfere with our destiny, and we will not interfere with yours. It was the last thing they expected. A demand for nothing. A request to be left alone. It was an answer so alien to their way of thinking that it stunned them more than the star had. They had built empires. They had conquered worlds. They saw power as a tool for domination. You saw it as a shield, a way to ensure your own freedom. The elder, one of shifting light, could not process it at first. It pulsed with confused energy. Respect, that was all? It was an offering of peace from a position of ultimate power. A gesture of such profound confidence that it dwarfed even their ancient egos. They had never encountered a race like you. It did not take them long to decide. The alternative was unthinkable. What other secrets did your simple gray ship hold? What other wonders could you unleash? They had peered into the heart of your science, and it had terrified them to their core. We agree, the elder one projected. The thought was firm, resolute. There was no hesitation, no debate. The High Council murmured its assent. From that moment on, a new law was written into the Galactic Codex, a law concerning the species known as human. You turned and walked.